are here because the outside world rejects you.
Hey, what's up everyone? A while ago we did a video breaking down some of the prequel stories for Raphael and Leonardo from the 2007 Ninja Turtles movie. We all know from that movie that Raphael was a vigilante sometimes called the Night Watcher, and that Leonardo had the alias of Ghost of the Jungle. And yeah, in that video we covered those prequel stories and we broke down how they got those alter egos. It's all explained in those books. Now today in this video we're going to explore what one of the other two brothers were up to before the event of the 2007 film. What was Michelangelo doing while Raphael was becoming the Night Watcher and Leonardo the Ghost of the Jungle? So with that said, get ready as we dive into the lesser known tales of 2007 Michelangelo. Just like his brothers, he had his own unique adventures leading up to the movie. So sit back, grab a slice of pizza, and let's dive into the sewers.
This is your family.
So Michelangelo's story is called The Continuing Story of Cowabunga Carl. You can see that under the title. It says based on the pre-production and backstory notes of TMNT movie director Kevin Munro. So the director of the 2007 movie. You can also see Ninja Turtles co-creator Peter Laird was editor and creative consultant. We can see that the book was released in March of 2007 by Mirage Publishing, so the same company that published the original black and white Mirage Ninja Turtles comics. Different continuity, but yeah, Mirage published these movie prequel comics as well. Now, March of 2007 was the same month the movie was released, so this came out right as the movie came out. Now, if you remember from the movie, Cowabunga Carl was the character Michelangelo would dress up as to perform at birthday parties and things like that. He uses this Cowabunga Carl character to hide the fact that he's a mutant turtle, and here in this story, we also see that he uses it to fight crime a little bit, which while doing so turns out to be quite an adventure. Let's break it down. Alright, so the story kicks off with Michelangelo suiting up into his Cowabunga Carl costume, as he talks about how things are different between him and his brothers lately. He says that he and his brothers have always fought the good fight, but that in recent months, the fight has changed. It's not that they're not trying to do the right thing anymore, but like we said before, things are just different. We see that he's in a van, and Donatello is there with him. You hear Michelangelo say how Leonardo is gone, somewhere in the world training, which is what we saw in his prequel story. Anyways, we see that Michelangelo says that Splinter has always said that the turtle should not interfere with the real world, and so that was the catalyst that sparked the idea between him and Donatello to come up with the Cowabunga Carl persona, who he then says is available for birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, and personal appearances. And we see here that one of his next personal appearances is going to be at a local hockey game. You can see that Casey Jones happens to be there as well at the game, and it makes sense with him being a hockey fan. It's explained in the story that he has brought kids from the local shelter to enjoy the match. You can see that Michelangelo, as Cowabunga Carl, is doing his thing. He's having fun with the fans, walking around and stuff. But it's during all this when he suddenly spots a purse snatcher. Michelangelo goes after him. You can see that Casey wants to go with him, but the kids that he's there with want him to go watch the game. So Mikey goes solo. But you find out that he's not completely solo. His Cowabunga Carl head has a radio inside of it that lets him talk with Donatello, who is still in the van outside. You can see that Donatello has a computer in there and stuff like that. It's almost like a mobile command center. As Mikey chases the purse snatcher, you see some guys who seem to be troublemakers trip Michelangelo during the chase. They think he's just some geeky mascot, as obviously nobody knows what he actually is. They all start whacking him with hockey sticks as he falls to the ground, and Mikey's pleading with them to let him go so he can go after the bad guy. But these guys get carried away and don't listen. So Mikey busts out the nunchucks and knocks the hockey sticks out of the guy's hands, and continues to go after the bad guy. We see that because of the distraction earlier from the troublemakers, that this causes Michelangelo to lose track of the purse snatcher, although he does continue to look for him. At one point, he thinks the purse snatcher is behind the locked door, so Mikey kicks the door down, only to fall into the skating rink where the big hockey match is taking place. Michelangelo gets captured by the security guards here, and he tries to convince them that they're on the same team, but Michelangelo is restrained and taken to a detention room. Casey, who's in the audience, sees the whole thing go down, and he tells the kids that he's there with that he'll be right back. attack. We see Donatello scold Michelangelo through the mascot head radio. He tells him that Splinter is going to ground them for the rest of their life, but Michelangelo tells him to shut up, that he'll figure it out. You see the security guard yell at Michelangelo to take his mask off, but Michelangelo tells him that he can't, as he doesn't want his secret identity revealed. And so Michelangelo is left in the detention room as the security goes to call the police. As soon as the security guard leaves, Michelangelo starts looking for an exit. He asks Donatello about the vent that he sees up in the ceiling. Donatello says that it's part of the main air duct system, that it might be big enough for Mikey to crawl through. Mikey begins to climb up, when suddenly he hears something going on outside of the detention room, and he tells Donatello that it doesn't sound good. We see that it's Casey Jones. He bursts into the room and says that he's made a distraction, that he told the guards that there was a fire in the main arena, but that they need to act fast because he doesn't know how long it'll fool them. Casey explains that he can't just sit on the sidelines and miss the action, and Michelangelo says that that's what they love about him. Now, it appears Mikey must still escape through the vents, as Casey doesn't tell him to go with him, but instead assists Michelangelo in getting up into the air duct. There must be more personnel. We see Casey lifting Mikey up, and he complains about his stinky feet. He calls them sewer feet, but all goes to plan, and Michelangelo is able to get into the vent. Once in the vent, we hear Donatello telling him which way to go. Eventually, he reaches the rooftop, and we see that Casey meets him up there, and Michelangelo thanks him, but worries that Casey may get in trouble for the false fire report. Casey tells him that they won't be able to identify him, that there's lots of guys here with long hair and a hockey mask. It's during this conversation that Mikey and Casey have to split ways. Casey goes back to join the kids from the shelter and heads off. Mikey, now alone on the roof, asks Donatello how they should get off the roof. There doesn't seem to be a clear way to get down. Donatello tells him to use the power lines as a zip line using his nunchucks, and so Mikey listens to him. He begins to zip down, but before he's able to get to the ground, his nunchucks snap. Mikey hits the ground pretty hard. Donatello pulls up in their van and drags Michelangelo in. Mikey then asks Donatello if there's a spare nunchuck in the van, and apparently there is. There's one in the supply box, Donatello says. It's kind of cool thinking that the Ninja Turtles have backup weapons just kind of laying around. They start to drive off, but Mikey ends up spotting the purse snatcher there in the parking lot getting into a car. Mikey tells Donatello that they need to go after him, but Donatello says no, that they're not supposed to interfere in the real world. Michelangelo then says, what about the old lady that got robbed? You see Donatello sighs. He then says that he guessed it wouldn't hurt to stop one bad guy, and this initiates a car chase. Funny enough, during the chase, we see that Donatello and Michelangelo briefly cross paths with the Night Watcher, who at this time in the story, they still don't know is Raphael. We hear Michelangelo say, that's the Night Watcher, that new kick-butt vigilante. You can tell that Donatello doesn't really like the Night Watcher, as he responds with, so what? The two debate about the Night Watcher for a little bit, and at one point it appears Raphael notices who they are and decides not to go with them, as he's still trying to keep his identity a secret as well, but even from his brothers. The chase continues, and Michelangelo begins to put on his Cowabunga Carl head. He says he's gonna be like the Night Watcher, and that he's gonna do what he would do. He tells Donatello to get close, so that he can jump onto the bad guy's car. Don thinks he's crazy, but ends up doing it. Mikey lands on the roof of the bad guy's car, but the guy swerves, and does a sharp turn, launching Mikey into an alley. Don pulls the van up and tells Mikey to get in, that they actually have to stop the chase because Michelangelo has a birthday party appearance that he's scheduled for and he can't miss it. Donatello then tells Mikey not to worry about the purse snatcher because he threw a tracker on the guy's car, that he'll continue to follow the guy while Michelangelo's at the party. We then get some side-by-side scenes of Michelangelo entertaining people at the birthday party and Donatello continuing the car chase. We then see Donatello radio into Michelangelo. He tells him that the car chase is coincidentally heading into the neighborhood that Michelangelo is working at. We see Mikey tell the kids at the birthday party that if they want to see Cowabunga Carl kick some butt. The birthday party then heads outside with Michelangelo. You can see that the car chase is arriving, and Michelangelo jumps into the street to play chicken with the purse snatcher. The purse snatcher screeches to a halt and gets out of his car and begins to run away, but we see Donatello then whips the van, blocking the purse snatcher from leaving. Michelangelo then faces off with the guy, and we get him doing a Clint Eastwood quote here from the 1971 film Dirty Harry, with Michelangelo telling the guy, "Do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you?" The cornered guy begins to charge at Mikey, but Michelangelo is able to duck and dodge him, and eventually cracks him in the face with his nunchuck. The fight is over. Michelangelo is able to retrieve the purse, or Cowabunga Carl is, and he heads back inside with everybody to the birthday party. A while after, we see Michelangelo, as Cowabunga Carl, returns the purse to the old lady. You hear some inner monologue here from Michelangelo, saying that he and his brothers still fight the good fight, that it's harder because it's only him and Donatello, and also because Splinter doesn't want them being heroes, but that being a hero is in his blood, maybe not as much as the Night Watcher, but that tonight he feels like he did something right, something heroic. And then we see the old lady gives him a hug and thanks him. Later on, we see Michelangelo and Donatello are back home with Splinter scorning them for disobeying him, specifically Michelangelo for interfering with the outside world, and Donatello for helping Michelangelo. He tells Michelangelo not to do this again, or that he will forbid him going out as Cowabunga Carl. He also tells him next time he goes out as Cowabunga Carl to bring back what he asked for, a piece of birthday cake. The two apologize, and later on we see them in the living area. Mikey says that he was just doing what he thought was right, that Leo's gone, Raphael's never around, but that it's always him that's getting in trouble. He then says he bets the Night Watcher never gets yelled at for saving the day, but then Donatello chimes in and says that he doesn't think that the Night Watcher saves the day at all, that he doesn't trust him, but Michelangelo says that he does, that he thinks he's the coolest, and that he wants to be just like him someday. And this leads us to this last shot here in the book, which shows us the Night Watcher getting ready to start his patrol, and then this last shot here shows him riding off. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Michelangelo's story before the 2007 TMNT movie. If you enjoyed this journey breaking down his comic prequel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Turtles lore. Also, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of our breakdowns or podcasts. Let us know in the comments which part of his story stood out to you the most, or also comment if there's any other TMNT topics you would like us to cover. We'd love to see what you all have to say. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in a little bit with another video. Take care.
Come back here! I'm not finished with you! Damn!